Thank you, everybody. Good morning. I'd like to again thank all the sponsors, and particularly Marcellus Shale Coalition and John and Katie for asking us to be back today. We did this 3 years ago when we first got into the Marcellus Shale work, and we're finding some success early on. And we're pleased to be back here today to share some more insight of what we've learned over the last few years. So thank you for having us. For those of you that don't know us, Borton Lawson is a local homegrown firm. We're a first-generation firm based in Wilkesburg. We're about 150 people right now that consist of architects, engineers, designers, administrative, human resources, marketing professionals that have traditionally serviced before Marcellus kind of the standard local sectors, as you may, like healthcare, government, a lot of local development work over time that we kind of cut our teeth and earned a reputation. I've been with the firm since 1992 when we had 15 people, so I can appreciate the change that this growth has had on our firm and have been involved heavily with it. So I think I can help even contractors or suppliers navigate a little bit, getting through the system from some of the lessons we learned along the way. And right now we have 4 office locations. Our headquarters is Wilkesburg here in Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley State College, and Pittsburgh as well. As I said, in the first 20 years of growth, it was an organic growth. We grew on reputation and service, and we grew to about 100 people in 20 years in that time, serving local developers, healthcare, pharmaceutical manufacturing, and government clients. In 2008, we got together as a firm, and we were starting to get big and said, what do we really want to do here? And we got together for some strategic planning at the time and set some goals to grow and become recognized as the top 500 E&R firm, which was at that time was a big reach from where we were. The bad news at that time, in 2008, everybody knows the housing market was crashing. That was kind of our bread and butter on development work. And the economy in general was tightening up on financing, so projects were really slowing down. The good news was, at the same time, the Marcellus was just starting to hit, and we kind of retooled and took a look at how we could fit in there, and the timing for us was perfect because we had all the skill sets needed to help guys like Chris and Bill. We just had to figure out how we could fit in as a local firm. And I will reaffirm what they have both said is everybody we work with genuinely has an interest in using local talent and has been very, very patient in teaching us the industry, where we bring our expertise on the local regulations and getting them through the local problems. They've been terrific in sharing, some of the things we don't know about natural gas, and it's been a really win-win in both directions. So for us, to break into the market, what we did was, we didn't wait for the phone to ring. We got up and we went to Oklahoma City, we went to West Virginia, we went to Texas, and we researched who was doing work, and we tried to get in front of some decision makers. And at the time, our strength was knowing the local permit arena, and we knew that they were having a hard time, coming to Pennsylvania and maybe not knowing that arena so well. So that's where we fit in, and after a little bit of persistence, it probably took 6 or 8 months before we got a call back that there was finally an opportunity for us to do something on a small scale, and they said, here's your chance. And I will say that first chance was with Chesapeake, and I'd like to thank them because they were a big part of our growth in the beginning before we went on to grow, and I know Brian Grow was here, but that was where we cut our teeth and had our first opportunity and was able to really learn a lot. So that was in 2008. We geared up over time. We recognized the coalition as a valuable resource. We felt as a firm that we can't just take from this, we need to be part of the solution. And so we recognized early on that the coalition was a very valuable organization that we felt we needed to belong to. And we did that early on and became a member, and that has been a terrific experience in terms of relationships and learning more about the industry, and also giving back to other people in the coalition of what we could offer. So since 2008, we've had 50% growth, and to be honest with you, it was more than that. We grew almost double, almost to 200 people in a 4 or 5 year time period. We've reduced a little bit in the last year after we've retooled with some of the natural gas prices, and as part of lessons learned, I'll talk about as we go along here. But it's been a tremendous impact on us, and that 45 professionals, it translates to about $5 million in salaries when you think about it. And those people are living in our local offices and spending their money in the local economy. So at a time when things are slow, and a lot of our people live in the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area, so they're not really in the heart of the gas land per se, but they're working in the gas industry, and they're spending their money back here at home, where if other things are slow, it has an impact all over the place. Our natural gas revenue as of this year is about $6 million in business for Borton Lawson as of today, and that's about 25% of our company, where 5 years ago it was nothing. So we've gone from doing no natural gas business to doing $6 million worth of business, which is bigger than a lot of firms are, as a standalone service in another industry. So that $6 million number translates to probably $500 million of construction work. Our design work sets up plans to build things, and based on the track record we've had with doing wells and midstream pipelines and compressor stations, on that percentage basis, it's probably $500 million worth of construction work that we've been involved in. That 5 years ago, we didn't even know what natural gas was. So it's possible for local people to get involved and learn, and really make business out of it. We're proud of the fact that we've been able to be recognized, and we just got notified this week for the second year in a row to be a member of the top 500 design firms in the United States, which is kind of like being on the cover of Sports Illustrated for us. So we're proud about that, and we're striving to keep that going. It's really just a number, but it's a signal that we're in this tough economy. We're still plugging along. A lot of it has to do with the natural gas. One of the big things that I learned going along is you have to get involved, and you have to give back. So our folks have got involved in the coalition as much as we could. The legislative committee, Tom McCue, here with us somewhere today, is involved in that committee. We've participated in the transportation committee, the public relations committee, safety and regulatory, and this requires firm members to take time out of their day to get away from the billable work, put our own donated time into the committee work, and in a sense get back to the industry so we can develop better standards as a whole, working with producers, working with contractors, and putting everybody's expertise together. It's important to do that. That's just a map of our locations. And to be honest with you, we opened a Tawanda office. We had a Tawanda office for almost 3 years. We pulled back on that recently, as well as a Canton, Ohio office, because we found that it was important to make those initial investments in those areas to show that we were committed and that we were a player. But as we kind of move up, I guess what we call our value chain, or bringing service or expertise, we're finding that we don't have to be right there. It's more important that we have the right people available to our customers, and we can do that. We found, from strategic locations that just aren't you don't have to be right there if you're delivering the service. Our list of experience today, I won't go through every one, but has got everything from survey and environmental and wetland delineations to developing water source points, a lot of well permits, well pad design, recycling facilities to conserve the water. We have a niche kind of market in our firm of what we call SCADA and automation, which we can work closely with the producers on tracking their water, and that's been a real nice business for us, where we can help in a pretty sophisticated but cost-effective way set up systems that they can remotely control and track all the water they're using in the play, which has saved all of those clients a lot of money time and time again, because of the record keeping and knowing where the water is going and being able to bill for that. Recently, we've also developed a little niche we've had a history of pretty a pretty diverse, like structural, mechanical, electrical skill set that has worked in industry for years, for clients like Procter & Gamble, Uncertainty, Coors, Owens, Illinois, where they've worked in pretty difficult environments for putting pieces together that aren't standard buildings. And so we found, after time, we weren't very versed in compressor stations or any of the well facilities. We kind of stayed away from it because we weren't sure, what we should do there. But we found a couple opportunities with clients that was able to tap into our skill set of putting together really good documents with some pretty experienced people, and they were willing to teach us on the process end a little bit. We found that we found a real home as a local firm that's being able to provide a real valuable service that is needed on the mechanical, electrical, automation of the facility that has been real nice for us in the last year, and I'll share a little bit about that with you. So we've kind of retooled ourselves as a firm, and I'm responsible to drive that business, but we have a group that we specialize in upstream work, which is everything up to and including drilling the well from our perspective. And now in the beginning we just learned how do you do a well in an individual piece, but over the last 3 or 4 years, we now, thanks to all of our clients, have taught us why we do things. We can now be part of the whole cycle of planning to through construction and then taking care of record keeping after they build it, and have found that we can be part of that planning process with them. So we have a whole evolution of planning, permitting, managing the water, designing and permitting the wells, overseeing construction if they want that done, and then afterward doing as-built documentation and legacy drawings so they have records going forward. We also have a midstream business or a midstream group, which includes the pipelines that Chris was talking about, and a lot of the facility work that we've gotten involved in the last year that's really become a nice part of our business, and that has been, again, a lot of on-the-job training, but now we're finding that we're bringing a lot of value to a lot of different clients right now in that business. Here's an example of just kind of what we're doing now in the last year. This is just a snapshot of what we call 3D modeling, and we've invested in our guys, in our staff, and in technology to be able to work in a 3D mode, which really, instead of doing a standard set of plans where everything is kind of flat, you can see in real life how things are going to fit and what they're going to look like. And we've been able to take this technology and put it to use on things like compressor stations and interconnect facilities. And this is an example of one client that is building 15 or 20 of these stations, and they engaged us to help standardize what they want their typical one to be, including down to every piece of material that they're going to order, what the specification is going to be, what the lead time is going to be. So when they build them after the first 2, it's a repeat exercise, and they can predict schedule, and they can predict cost, and they can predict where the unknowns are going to be, and take that out of the equation, because there's been a lot of lost time and a lot of lost expense for equipment not showing up on time. As Chris said, it's very, very expensive to not be in service. There's marketing agreements that have to be met by certain dates, and they can't afford it to be down. So, the behavior's been to spend more money, get done. We're trying to get away from that to predict the cost and plan ahead. So those things fall into place like a jigsaw puzzle when you show up at the site, and you should be able to do it over and over again. So that's one of the newer businesses we've been able to get involved in, and that's also now taken us from being just a local firm that we're doing projects in Ohio. We've been asked to do a project in Wyoming. We've been asked to do a project in Texas from our Worcester office, because we can do the field work necessary to get the support from the producers, but because we have the right skill set, they're willing to take us with them now, which is nice. And then our downstream business, which has not evolved so much yet, but there's a lot of potential for a lot of our peers in here too, and a lot of other suppliers for the downstream, as people convert to CNG and convert fleet vehicles over to CNG, there's a need to retrofit buildings, there's a need to update for codes. So there's a lot of opportunity for mechanical, architectural, electrical work on our end for the foreseeable future, and there's opportunities for a lot of people to do that. One of the things we did to give back last year is we worked with the Wilkes-Barre Chamber of Commerce, and Bill Moore's here now, he wasn't there then, I don't think. And we worked with the MSC committee, and we put on and Gus Giannetti, I don't want to leave out Gus. Gus Giannetti had it from Wilkes-Barre, his hotel. He had a big interest in natural gas and promoting it, and he actually stepped up and asked if we would participate in putting on a seminar on CNG, and we had an excellent panel for that, including Will Freeman from Chesapeake was one of the early ones that we did. Ford Motor Company, UGI, Corning Gas took part in that, and where we had a panel like today to educate the local manufacturers on the value of switching over to fleet vehicles, and it was very successful. So the message there is that, you know, when you're working in the industry, you've got to promote it back, and you've got to tell your neighbors about it and why it's good, and we do the best we can to do that. Some of the tricks, I think, for somebody wanting to contract, even as a contractor or a supplier, there are some things you have to step up on, and one is safety for sure. I mean, safety is paramount. You can't just say that you have safety in place. You're going to get asked what you're doing about it. And so we really had to step up there. We registered with what's called ISNet World, which is kind of our score sheet that gets put out for the public and all of our vendors to see how we rate on the safety perspective, and it's pretty tough. And as part of that, you have to implement a lot of safety programs to make sure that you're keeping up with the scores. And so we found that now we've had to hire one of our internal people had a real strong interest, became our safety expert or safety director, and that's what they do now full time. And so when we go into a job, we prepare the things you used to take for granted, like driving, not take for granted, but driving with a cell phone or backing into your parking space, all those little things we're learning of what you're supposed to do. It's very, very important when they go to the site that they understand what the ramifications could be if they don't act in a safe manner. You really in this industry have to step it up. So there's an investment there. I mean, you get a lot of points. I think as Bill said too, is they look for that first because they can sleep at night that the people they're working with are working the right way. And so it's worth the investment there. The contracts are a little bit foreign when you get a master service agreement put in front of you. I think the first one we passed on, because we said that we can't sign this. Our insurance company doesn't like a lot of language. It said we would be responsible for ships sinking in the Gulf Coast and those types of things. So, but we found that you can work through them with a little bit of patience and get a little bit of legal advice, but on the other end, they're usually receptive to understanding where you fit into their supply chain, and if they want to use you, you'll find a way to make that work. There is risk in every business, and we've decided that we can control that, with some dialogue back and forth. But that you need to be aware of that, and if you get one of those, don't be too intimidated, and I'd be happy to help anybody or ask any, give any advice on maybe how we navigated through that. If anybody would like to contact me. Lessons learned is understand the market and the impact of natural gas prices. I will admit we did not as much as we do now. In the beginning, it was very, very busy. Gas prices were high, and we couldn't keep up. And we hired a lot of people, and we did good work. But it gets tough to manage when you grow that fast. And we found that it's more important to stick to what your strengths are, and don't worry about what your neighbor is doing per se. Just focus on your set of clients and your job in front of you, and the rest of it will take care of itself. So we've really taken a step back there in how we're approaching the business going forward. It's not a sprint; it really is a marathon. It's going to be here for a long, long time. So that is a big lesson for us, and I would share that with anybody that's going to get involved. It is up and down. You do need people that are willing to take a phone call at 6 o'clock at night and get back to them at 8 o'clock at night on a lot of occasions. That's how we've made our name. We have people that are willing to do that. Not everybody wants to do that, but we have a group of people that likes that because as Chris said, the work gets done. It doesn't take forever, and there's a lot of satisfaction in getting the job done and working with a lot of really good people. On the supply chain end, we've seen We've seen it firsthand too, the positive impacts, on water management. You have local municipal authorities, doing a lot better because they're able to reach financial deals to sell excess water to producers that they wouldn't have been able to do. They could take that money and do their own capital projects that creates more jobs and more engineering opportunities and more construction projects. A lot of spin-off. Katie touched on a lot of this, so I won't go, in the sake of time, I won't go through all of these. But it's definitely true that there's a chain of rippling effect there. New employees, are 45 or 50 people. They're not all natural gas people, but it gives us the confidence when we're strong in one business to take a risk and hire maybe a business that isn't doing so strong at the time because we can kind of afford to do it now. But those salaries are real, that spending is real, and a lot of those people end up living in some of the more remote areas. It helps that local economy as well. Local contractors, in the beginning, there was the traditional contractors locally that we have worked with, got involved, some of the bigger ones, but now that I've been on the sites, I'll see a local fence company that I know from my Little League field that I saw them doing impoundments one day, and I said, hey, what are you doing? And they have a whole crew of people doing fences for impoundments forever, probably, that they were doing just residential fencing before that. So it is possible to make it work. In short, in terms of other engineers that are in here, there's a lot of peers in the room too, and they're all doing a great job. We're fortunate to get asked today, I think, with our local office here, and we appreciate that. But there's a lot of my peers here that do a terrific job. We work on a lot of projects together, and I think they'll tell you the same story, that if you're going to be successful, this is just one quote we had from one client, is the oil and gas business moves rapidly, and the expectations are very high. And it's difficult to find consultants that understand that, and from their perspective, we did, and that's why we kept doing their work. So that's the message. If the opportunities, I think, are there for sure. The key is being responsive, asking questions, and be willing to give back to the industry as well. Thank you.